Hi, everybody. Today you will listen to a conversation I had with Eduard de Wilde, a very experienced and knowledgeable entrepreneur and biohacker. He explains the first pillars one should look at when they want to optimize their health, and he shares many more insights on how he biohacked his illness. I highly appreciate it that you're listening to the podcast. If you want to support the podcast, you can do that by turning on notifications on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It helps me to invite bigger and better guests. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Good morning, Eduard. Happy to have you on the podcast. We already know each other. We organize the biohacker meetups in the Netherlands. You don't like it when people announce you as the biohacking father of the Netherlands, but
it reminds me of someone else.
Exactly. But yeah, you are a profound name in the Dutch biohacking industry, well-known brand Noordcoat, and a very helpful web shop, Live Healthy. Could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, and what do you want? Talking about the Eduard and the biohacking, or just about me as a person?
Well, why I wanted to speak to you today is because, you are well known in the Netherlands as a biohacker. And what I always like to hear from biohackers is how they got into biohacking. What is their backstory? Were you always so invested in your health?
Yeah, that's a good question. As most of the biohackers, there's a black spot, and the black spot that brought me into biohacking, because I was not interested in health at all, because health was just a given at the time, as most people have, and it happened in 1999 when I went to Cameroon, and Cameroon is a black spot in the malaria world, because it's the red circle, and so I had to take Lariam as a anti-malaria prophylaxis. And when I went into Cameroon, we flew there with little Cessnas, and I just sat in the back seat. There was no issue at all. I took the Lariam, and when I came back, I had a very severe side effect, a panic and an anxiety disorder. And the moment that I came back to the Netherlands again, I didn't even dare to go into a big Boeing 747 anymore, because I was so afraid that I would die when I would enter the airplane. And when I, walked on the street, I thought I would die on the spot. So it was a very, very severe panic disorder. And that was at the moment that I became a partner in the consultancy company. So I was a digital strategy consultant at the time. And so it was a very bad timing, because when you are a partner in a company, and in 2001, you had the collapse of the economy, the internet bubble, it went all wrong, also with the company, a lot of stress. And that brought me into the journey of healing myself. And, as most people do, they go to the medical doctors and ask for help. So I went to the psychiatrist, and he gave me antidepressants, but that didn't help. Although I've been 8 years on antidepressants. But, at that time, I just trusted the medical, the medical doctors, and I just did what they told me to do. And then I went to the psychologist, all kinds of therapies. They wanted to believe me that I just had a burnout. And so the first year, I did all kinds of therapies to heal myself from a burnout. But I didn't feel burnout because I had a lot of energy. So at a certain time, I thought, okay, what the hell is happening? I'm here, I'm full of energy, but I just have that burning headache of tension. And, I wasn't able to function at my work, and even privately, I couldn't function at all. So I worked for 2 hours a day, and for the rest of the day, I was just recovering from those 2 hours. But that was because of the tension in my head. So that what drained my energy. And then at a certain moment, another medical doctor he asked me, what did I take when I went to Cameroon? And then I told him that I took Lariam. And then she said, okay, that's it, because it's a known side effect of Lariam, and I didn't know that before. So I dived into the literature, I researched the internet, and then everything, became clear to me. And then I searched for all kinds of treatments to heal myself from that panic disorder, and different from, burnout treatment. And you can name a medical treatment or an alternative medical treatment, and I tried it. I think I tried almost 40 different therapies, and most of them they helped a little bit, but it didn't solve my issue. And after 6 years, I came back to the psychiatrist, and he said, "Okay, it is damaged. Your brain is damaged. So it's a problem with your neurotransmitter, and you just have to accept it. You just have to learn to live with it." And when you are at that age, 35, I thought, okay, this, you have a family, you have a professional career. I thought, okay, this is not the way I want to live my life, because it's, you can't handle that for that long period. And so someone mentioned to me, maybe you should focus on your lifestyle, and Mark Sisson's Daily Apple could be a very inspirational source for you. So I looked at Mark's Daily Apple, and then I read all his blog posts, and I thought, wow, this is a completely different way of looking at food and exercise and all that stuff. And I started to implement the things that he mentioned. I bought all his books. The Primal Blueprint was the first book. I think it's not called a biohacking book, but if you ask me, it is a real biohacking Bible. And I started to implement all the things that he mentioned, and I felt immediately success. Immediately, I felt positive effects. I got more energy, and gradually, my panic disorder became more, more. I don't know if it's an English word, handleable. I could deal with it more, and I thought, okay, if this is the way to get success, then I have to dive into it. I have to listen to more people in that biohacking scene. So I followed people like Rob Wolf and Tim Ferriss and Ben Greenfield. And in the end, I discovered Dave Asprey. And Dave Asprey, 2010, he started with Bulletproof Radio, and I tried all his products. I started to drink Bulletproof coffee, and I learned about the whole principles of biohacking, because that was the first one who framed the word biohacking for a mass audience. And then, each year I felt that improvement. And after about 7 years, I thought, okay, I'm feeling so good now that I think I can consider myself healed. So in 2008, I decided to stop with the antidepressants. I thought, okay, it's a poison. That doesn't help me. I just quit. And at that time, I practiced Qigong Qigong. And I went to a retreat with one of the main teachers from China. And it was a profound experience. So when I went to the retreat, I said, okay, now I stop, cold turkey with antidepressants. They say that you have to diminish it slowly to fight the side effects of, the getting rid of it. But I did it cold turkey, went into the weekend, and I don't know how to explain it, but there was that massive chi that the Chinese instructor was generating. It was, I don't know if you know the concept of chi, but when you do the movements, it felt like a thick layer. And so you were moving through something that was tangible one way or the other. And I think that was a massive aid to get me off the antidepressant cold turkey.
Did the other participants also experience that in the same way, or did you also contribute it to stopping with the medication?
No, I think it was a profound experience for everybody. And it's what I said, it's very hard to explain what you feel. But and so back to 2015, I thought, okay, now I consider myself healed. I thought biohacking is the thing for me to improve myself even further, because I discovered that I even had more energy than when it all happened 15 years before. And from that on, I started to use it as a performance tool and to increase my cognitive performance, to have constant energy during the day and to reach the peak performance state, and also as an anti-aging instrument, because when you grow older, you want to grow old in a healthy way and stay active as long as possible. So that's my main focus at the moment.
Fascinating. Also inspiring how you did that with becoming so severely ill. I cannot imagine how hard that must have been for you, but also your environment, your private life, when something physical or mentally impacts you so severely. What I find interesting in your story, where you started with, is that when a doctor gives you advice on how to do something, or even tells you, well, this is just how it's going to be, that there was something inside of you that was like, no, it's not going to be like that. There must be another way. And I think that describes you as a person as well. But what is that in you that you thought there must be another way? I think a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah, I think it's more about not accepting the idea that I should live forever like this. And so there was no choice. And I thought, okay, I only accepted when I tried everything imaginable. And I had the idea that there was so much more to explore. And when I discovered all those different approaches to your lifestyle, and I thought, okay, first I have to try this. And if that doesn't help, then maybe I could accept that it will not go away, for the rest of my life. But I think it's also more of a characteristic thing that I don't accept things as a given, that I always have the idea that you can change things, although maybe some things can't be changed, but still I think I can change it. I try to change things. And it's also fun. So you can talk about it in a dramatic way, but trying things, experimenting with all those different tools, different biohacks, I like it just as a way of living. And it's just like, I play golf. Golf is my favorite sport, and maybe I will never get better in it, but still I try. And just trying, experimenting with my golf swing, trying all new kind of things, learning from the expert, learning from the pro golfers, and see if I can implement it in my golf swing and in the activity as such. It's fun. So it's not only about the goal, but I really like the process of improving things.
Well, I think that shows in your business as well, and of course in your health, because you come off as a very healthy, energetic person. There's a business guy I always listen to. He calls life the game, and business is a game. And I think it is funny when I meet non-biohackers that they are always telling me, "Oh, you're so busy with your health," and I'm like, it's so strange that people are always trying to optimize their marketing, their sales, HR, all those kind of processes in their business, but it's not a natural thing to do with their own body. Like, they're not thinking in processes when it comes to their health.
That's a very interesting topic. Why is it so? And in my discussions with those people, and because those remarks, I've had it all the time. I think it's mainly because they, one way or the other, they feel offended by it, because if you talk about it and you talk about the benefits of changing your lifestyle, then they apply it to themselves, and then they think, okay, but if I have to lower my carbs, if I don't eat processed foods anymore, if I have to eat whole foods, if I don't, drink alcohol that much anymore, I can't enjoy my life anymore. So they have fear for it, and they are afraid of changing their lifestyle because they think that's no fun anymore. And I once was invited at TL Boulevard. They did an interview with me about bio. And then the panel with Dutch celebrities, they said, whoa, that guy must have a boring life. And it's no fun anymore. And they were, it's that that reaction of feeling offended by it. And then, I always invite people just try to change it and see how you feel. And living this lifestyle, it doesn't mean that it's not tasty, it's not fun anymore, because you really can enjoy the food. You just have to experience it, and when you experience it, then you say, okay, wow. And just with very small, incremental steps, you can implement it and just see, okay, if you can still enjoy your food and at the same time feel the benefits of it, then gradually, in my situation, you become addicted to it, because it feels so nice. I always say, how you feel normally is not normal, and everybody can benefit from feeling and creating an upgraded self of yourself, and having more energy and being able to do more things in life that you enjoy, but it's a huge step for people to make that decision. And another thing that I want to mention about the attitude of changing yourself, it's also about the stoic way of living and seeing adversity as a challenge to find new ways. And it's also about business. So it's also that you have to enjoy the issues that you face, to enjoy the possibility that you can solve those issues and that you find solutions for those problems. And then you can find other ways that brings you in territory that you have never been, and discover that maybe is a better territory than where you were before. And I think that's also very important and a beneficial way to look at life, and to see, okay, if bad things happen, what can I do to improve it, to solve it, and see what nice things can happen because of it. And if you don't have that attitude, then I don't recommend people to start a business, because it happens all the time, every day, every hour, whatever. There is something going wrong, and if you in a negative way are affected by it, then you really get burnout very fast. But if you look at it as an opportunity to solve it, then it's almost fun to do it.
Like a game. Yeah, maybe biohacking is being somewhat of an entrepreneur with your own body.
Yeah.
Maybe we can put it that way. I mean, you've told me a couple of things that you've encountered, like challenges with your business. And I can imagine that when you approach it the wrong way, wrong quote unquote, that it can be that you are willing to give up, because the things you told me could be quite challenging. And the same with your health. So I think that, at least for me, biohacking is also a form of personal leadership or accountability, that you take accountability over your own health and you make your own choices. And I think that, combined with you being able to deconstruct things so easily and make it fun, are a very successful combination for your business and for your health as well. Okay, so you had adversity in your health and you deconstructed it. It's also fun. I had the same thing with my burnout. It was not as severe as you did, but when I had a burnout, I was like, what is a burnout? And I tried to deconstruct it and try to understand it, which factors have impact on a burnout, and how can I reverse that? And to me, that is biohacking, understanding what is happening in your body and trying to improve those processes in your body to make them work for you. I think you did a great way in your illness, but you're not famous for your illness. You're famous for biohacking, anti-aging. How did you transition from being ill to anti-aging? That's like the quite opposite. You're like, okay, I'm onto something. Let's bring it to the optimal way. How did you get there?
Yeah, what I mentioned when around 2015, I thought, okay, now I healed myself, but I like the way I feel. So I wanted to explore other goals, what I can, which I can reach with the biohacking. And I thought, okay, there are two main goals in my life, and that is to perform at my best, in my job, in my life, and secondly, to do it as long as possible. And if you look at the whole exponential digital developments, you can see that the research is speeding up. All the tools are becoming more and more available for ordinary people. Technologies become more available. So it's a very exciting period where we are living in, that we can really have more science based insights in how your body is functioning, the whole idea of aging as a disease, and the pillars of aging, and that's all about the damage in your body that is building up, and in the end you die, and that you have all those different pillars of damage, and that there's more and more insights how you can mitigate that damage, and even you can control it, or even you can reverse the damage so that you feel better again. And it's a fascinating topic, and we are only at the moment in the stone age of anti-aging. But if you look at that exponential digital development, then we don't know what we can expect in the coming years, what kind of new inventions or discoveries will happen, what we can benefit from, and that's very exciting for me, and I find it fascinating.
I find it fascinating too. Even though I'm 27, I think I can already start with anti-aging.
Yeah, you already started to die.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm already dying. Let's slow that process down a little bit, please. You touched on pillars from anti-aging. Do you have a couple of general pillars what people can look at when they look to improve their anti-aging?
Yeah, so the Raymond Kurzweil, he has a very interesting approach to aging, and there are certain brackets. So he thinks that in 20 or 30 years we will live forever, so that we won't die anymore, and that there will be nanobots entering in our body, repairing all the stuff, and even reverse the damage that is in there, so that you become younger again. And there are most scientists, they don't believe it. It's Raymond Kurzweil is a guru, and most of the time he was right in his predictions. You never know. And in the decade before we live forever, there will be all kinds of interventions that are possible to change your DNA and those interventions. But before we reach that second layer, so then in the second layer you can also reverse the damage, although you can't reverse your age. You have to make sure that you get as less damage as possible. So that's the whole idea. So we have now the next 5 to 10 years to make sure that we preserve our body, in the best possible way to benefit from the decades after that. And that's your lifestyle. And so if you look at the ways to conserve yourselves in the best way when aging, there's things about food, to make sure that you eat a whole food diet. You can have discussions about the carnivore diet or the vegan diet or whatever, but I think as a general rule, to avoid all the toxins in your food as much as possible, like the damaged seed oils, and eating whole food, avoid the processed foods, intermittent fasting, making sure that you restrict your eating window to give your body the opportunity to repair itself during the night and extend that a little bit during the day. And I have to mention that I believe in balance. So that's maybe off topic for your question, but if you look at the people, the thought leaders in the biohacking scene on socials, most of them, they are one-trick ponies. And so one guy says, okay, everything is about the carnivore diet. You only have to eat the carnivore diet and you will be healthy. And then they come up with all kinds of arguments to back it up. And then you have the vegan guy or girl. And then you have a guy about fasting, and you should do 1 meal a day, or you should fast 5 days a week. You should whatever. Or even you have the guy, I forgot his name, about the snake oil guy. He says, okay, when you want to lose weight, fast just as long as till you have lost your weight, till you reach your goal.
Wow.
And so 5 days fasting, 2 days refeed, then 5 days fasting, 2 days refeed, 5 days fasting.
No way.
And then you have the cold thermogenesis people. You have to take an ice bath every day, and so on and so on. And I believe that you have to be very critical when you follow those thought leaders. You have to think if it makes sense to apply all those principles in the way they advertise it. Because I think it's also about balance, and it's about hormesis. So most of those tools is about creating an effect on your body, and then a negative effect, and then your body thinks, okay, something happened, I have to repair myself, and then your body becomes better. That's the whole idea of hormesis. It's also the idea about weight training, about cold thermogenesis, about fasting. It's you put a pressure on your body, and then it becomes better. But if you put too much pressure on your body, it can have a lot of side effects, and so your body can become too stressed, and then in the end you don't reach the goals that you want to accomplish. So I think one of the main things I advocate is apply the different tools that people are advocating, but listen to your body very carefully and make sure that you have the balance in place. So I don't think that the ketogenic diet, for example, is something that you have to do all the time. I think you need, especially as a woman, you need to have that carb refeed on a regular basis to make sure that your body can get back to the normal status quo and not because ketogenic is in fact a stressor, because your body has not enough glucose to burn, and then it starts to tap into your fat reserve, and then you create those magical ketones. I like to be in ketosis because I discovered that I have a better cognitive performance when I'm in ketosis, but you have to balance it by adding those carbs on a regular basis. And so that's something what I can advise the listeners to do. So first and people who start in biohacking, they want to dive, into it and do all the things that they learn. At a certain moment, you have to step back and say, okay, is this, how do I feel? Is it bringing me the results that I wanted to have? But the message about balance is not a very commercial, attractive message, because it's, when you are social and you have half a minute to bring your message across, then the message, okay, you should balance it out, is not very effective from an audience impact of view. So that's something that I want to mention. Other factors for anti-aging is, of course, exercising. Weight training is very important. And people who age, they lose their muscles.
Strength. Yeah.
Yeah, their strength. And that's part of aging, but it is not necessary. But you have to implement weight training in your regimen. And that's something I do on a regular basis. So at least 3-4 times a week, I do my weight training, but also moving on a daily basis. So the more you exercise, the more you move, the better it is from an anti-aging perspective. I just read some meta research about it, that it's almost indefinite how you benefit from it. And that doesn't mean that you have to exercise, lift heavy weights 7 days a week for 2.5 hours a day. That is not very effective. But, move every day a lot during the day, sprint once in a while. So it's also about, the endurance training, It's the movement, it's the weight training, and you have to find a combination how you implement that in the week to benefit from it. So that's the weight training. I think there are very exciting supplements coming on the market that can help you, for example, with senescent cells. And senescent cells, those are the zombie cells that they die, but they are not disposed of your body, and then they become inflammatory and they affect other cells in your body. And the more you age, the more senescent cells you have. And I'm very excited about the idea of like visitin and quercetin and other compounds that can help you to get rid of those senescent cells. Sleep is also very important for your body, and because in your sleep you repair yourself. And when I talk to my friends, about sleep, they don't measure their sleep, and they think that they can eat. They have their dinner at 10 p.m., drink a lot of alcohol, and then they sleep for 8 hours. Then they think, okay, I've slept 8 hours. So what are you talking about? But they don't know about the quality of the sleep, at what time their heart rate reaches the lowest point. So that's for me a sign when I look at the data, the sooner you get your heart rate to the lowest point during the night, the more time your body has to repair itself. Because when it's dealing with all those toxins, the alcohol toxins and the food that you have to digest, when your body is busy with it all night, and I've seen in my data that sometimes when I ate late and drank alcohol, then my lowest heart rate appeared at 6 a.m. just before I wake up. Then I know that my body was busy all night getting, digesting food, getting rid of toxins, dealing with it, instead of repairing itself. And that's why I think focusing on your sleep and making sure that you get enough deep sleep and knowing what affects your sleep, and that's very individual, is very helpful for regeneration, and make sure that you enable yourself, to live longer in a healthy way.
Interesting. So you brought it back to 4 pillars: food, exercise, supplements, and sleep. Again, I love bringing back bigger problems to just a few pillars. I think it is difficult for people to, when they start figuring out their health, to make it that simple, because obviously you can bring it back to pillars if you don't know where you're looking.
Yeah.
But so you're saying when you want to focus on your health, you bring it back to those pillars, and then you at least cover the basics.
I think you cover the basics. You can talk about, all kind of devices for genesis, for, I have a lot of tools for, to use for my brain. Also the infrared light, red light therapy, saunas, cold thermogenesis. Those are all tools you can use to optimize things. But indeed, I think that when you focus on those 4 basics, they have to be in place first before you should consider the other things. It doesn't make sense to go into an ice bath if you have the other things not in place. It still will be beneficial, but not from a reward point of view. I think you get the most out of it if you have the exercise, sleep, and the supplements and the food in place, and then you can start optimizing other things. And people that are not familiar with biohacking and with changing their lifestyle, I also recommend to implement just very small steps, that's easy to implement, because sometimes it's very overwhelming, because I can discuss with you 100 biohacks. So, okay, if you want to have a real, to be a real biohacker, you can have the biohacker handbook from the Biohacker Center, and the Ben Greenfield, he wrote a book, I think 300 or 400 pages, and you can say, okay, you have to do all of this in order to reach your goals. But then, it's way too big. People can't do it. And I always say, okay, just focus on your goal. What do you want? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to age in a healthy way? Do you want to look healthy? Do you want to reach a peak performance? Do you want to be more relaxed? What in the toolbox can help you with that goal? And just start with that, that small hack, implement it, make it a habit, look if it works for you, measure it. And when you see that it is helpful for you, okay, then add another hack and stack those hacks in the course of your life. And in that way, it becomes way more within reach for most people.
I think that's very helpful advice. I always say when people come to me for what do I have to do for more energy? How do I optimize my health? I always remind them to this same advice. Just cover the basics first, and then you get 80% right. And when you get 80% right, you can optimize the other 20%. So yeah, I think you brought that down perfectly to those pillars. I like them. When you want to get to that extra 20%, I think it is important to start measuring those pillars, right? How do you do that on a regular?
Yeah, in fact, if you talk about biohacking, then experimenting and measuring those experiments is in fact the essence of biohacking. The third component is science. So I think most bikers, they base their experiments on science. It's not, biohacking is not about woo. It's not about just belief. It's about what's happening. What can I see in the scientific literature? And although it may be only measured on mice, maybe it works for human beings as well. And I just want to see whether it works. And so I think those are the most essential elements of biohacking. And now I forgot your question.
The measuring of of those pillars. How do you approach that?
Yeah,
like
so
3 ways or something.
Yeah, so when I do an experiment, for example, when I want to see how I can get in ketosis, then I measure my blood. And so I have, in certain periods, for 3 months, I prick my finger each morning, each afternoon, each evening to see what my blood glucose level was and my ketone level. So my hands were full of. But now,
you do it immediately after you ate it, or what is that time window?
Yeah, it depends on the experiment. So when I was fasting, I just did it, in the fasted state and see if I was already in ketosis or not. When I did my 5-day fasting, I wanted to see how my ketone levels went up during the 5-day fast. So it was more, I think, the fixed moment on the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, to see how it evolved during the day. But you can also do it, to see the effect of a specific type of food, what happens 1 hour after eating it and 2 hours after eating it, 3 hours. So that it depends on the experiment that you are running. So I also have the permanent glucose monitor to see what effect the different food has on my glucose level and how fast I can get rid of a spike. And if I get, a real, I don't know what's the English word, a dip in my glucose level after eating a certain food. Yeah. Of course, the Oura Ring is for me very important. I've been wearing the Oura Ring since the start, since it was bought on the market. It's the 3rd generation. Very, very helpful to see what activities during the day, what effect it has on your sleep, but not only on your sleep, but also for recovery. And the HRV, for example, in the morning, to see, I check it to see what impact it has. I have measured my DNA to see how my genetic makeup influences my performance. I discovered that I, for example, have a low metabolization of caffeine. So after that, I decided to stop drinking coffee after 10, 11 a.m. so that it can get rid of my body before it disrupts my sleep. And also food timing, exercise timing, it's very helpful for that. I measure my HRV. So not only in the Oura Ring, but also I have a inner balance trainer with an app, so I can train my HRV. Because for me, I think the result of my anxiety and panic disorder, my parasympathetic system is very important to watch. And HRV is a very important KPI for it. And I train my HRV on a regular basis myself. So I can, and that's also for many people, they wonder, so if you are measuring all those things, then the numbers determine how you feel. So when you wake up, you look at your data, you look at your dashboard, and then the dashboard says how you should feel that day. But I always respond that the data explain to me why I feel this way, and it helps me to clarify the actions, the relationship between the actions and the outcome. And for example, after training for years, so I started HRV training in 2007 with the first generation of the inner balance trainer on the computer. I learned how to breathe in order to increase my HRV. And at a certain moment, I learned how to feel when my HRV is low. So I can feel it now in my body. And the moment that I feel it, I can, without even being aware of it, I can practice the way of breathing in order to get my HRV back up. And so that you can deal with stressful situations before a presentation, for example, that you breathe, that you know how to breathe in order to get your body relaxed again. I have a ketone ACE track, a ketone measurement device. I like this a lot. So I don't have to prick my fingers anymore to know whether I'm in ketosis or not, because it's a very friendly device. So you just have to breathe in it. I think it's a very valid tool to use when you think that being in ketosis is very helpful for you, and knowing what impacts it and see what levels you can reach. What more to measure?
Do you measure your blood as well?
Yeah, twice a year.
Oh, really? That often?
Yeah, I use the Insight Tracker, and that's, in my opinion, one of the most sophisticated dashboards that are available. Insight Tracker it's an American concept, but you can, in the Netherlands, you can buy a test at bloedwaardetest.nl and then upload it in Insight Tracker. And they have a very customer-friendly way to show your data and to see how you progress over time, so that you can see if some things that you change in your lifestyle have the desired effect. And they also give you advice that if you are below a certain threshold of health, being healthy, how you can improve it, so that for the next time that you measure your blood, you can see whether it is improved or not. And I think that's what I mentioned before. I think, those tools, it empowers the customer, the consumer, to get more control over their health themselves. And 20 years ago, the only way to influence your health was going to the medical doctors and to ask them to, please, can we do some blood test or whatever? And then most of the time they are very conservative, and I understand it why they are conservative. But now when you look at all those technologies, those blood tests, DNA tests, etc., it's so cool that you now as a consumer can collect all those data, define your own KPIs, and improve yourself. And that's still, it's still complex. The human body is extremely complex, and I admit that it's not always without risk. That the experiments that you can do, it can be very tricky. What some biohackers do, but personally, most of the time I'm on the safe side. I don't want to be the first one who wants to experiment with some new biohacks that people are raving about. I first want to wait to see, and then I try it myself.
Yeah, I think it is interesting to see the whole community doing their own thing and experimenting. I think that's a big factor of biohacking as well. Just like we spoke about earlier, it's entrepreneurship. So you have to try new stuff, fail possibly, but I think that most of the biohacks that you and I and the people around us are doing are quite safe. I mean, cold therapy, heat therapy, supplements. I think it's reasonable to try and to experiment with those. When you talk about other biohackers, are there some biohackers you look up to? Is maybe a big word, but are there biohackers that inspired you to experiment more or push the boundaries a little?
Yeah, most of them I already mentioned. So I follow people like, Ben Greenfield. I think it's a very inspirational guy. Tim Ferriss is, I think, extremely interesting person, but also Peter Attia, Mark Hyman, still people like Mark Sisson, Dave Asprey. Yeah, it's you can see that they are evolving as well. They are exploring new territories, not always the things that I like, but still, when you listen to the podcast, they always have, or most of the time, they have interesting guests, and that that triggers my thinking, and that's what I already said. You should not immediately apply those things to yourself. Also, when they exploit their email database and they advertise all those different products, then I think you have to do your due diligence yourself first to see if it's valid. But still, 90% of my inspiration, they come from those guys. And also in Europe, Tim Gray and Tim Marina and Oli Soviervi. And I think they all bring a lot to the community. And but there's an overwhelming, amount of information. So you have to make your choices, to pick and choose. Some people think that I'm busy with biohacking 40 hours per week, but as you mentioned, I also have a business to run. So I have to be very careful which topics I choose and which podcast I can listen to. And
I can imagine. I think it goes hand in hand if you balance it properly, right? It enforces the other aspects in your life. I think Dave Asprey is one of I know you listen to him, at least in the past, quite a lot. And I think it is important to have a community with crazy people, quote unquote, for the people that are not listening, to have crazy people like Dave Asprey at the forefront to experiment and to do it for the community as well. You need people to do the risky stuff as well, to expand the possibilities and to break dogmas about what is normal and what is not normal. When I first saw Dave Asprey years ago, I was like, those orange glasses, what the hell is that guy doing?
Yeah.
And what is he doing in an ice bath and fasting? That cannot be right? And a few years later, I'm using those glasses. I'm doing cold therapy. I'm fasting a lot. And I think it is important to have people like that. I also think that the biohacker industry, maybe I'm biased because we're in it, but the biohacker industry is a special one because somehow people are trying to help each other so much as they do now. And it's you can speak for more experience than I do, but when you go to America or you go to Helsinki, where you go to Amsterdam, Germany, you meet a lot of the same people, right?
It's interesting. It's the same people. It's the same interest. And what I like is that it's so diverse. And there's a big difference in the kind of people at the Biohacker Summit in Amsterdam, and you compare it to the Health Optimization Summit in London and to the Biohacking Conference in the United States. I've been to all of them this year. It's a very different type of people, but they share one common interest, and that is, the biohacking or the health optimization, and they have a very positive attitude towards each other. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I had dinner with Chris Gedden, and Chris Gedden, normally when I would see him on the street, I don't know if I would go to the other side of the street, but it's if you see each next to each other, then there couldn't be a bigger difference than between him and me. But we had a very nice conversation, and we had fun together, and because we share that common interest, and that is biohacking, and we can talk for hours about it. And I also think that the biohackers are very positive people because they feel energetic, and Dave Asprey, he mentioned it, I think already 7 years ago, that Bush people are nice people. And I thought, okay, that's more of a marketing, way of endorsing your brand. But then I thought about the whole ideas of energy and the concept of that you have 3 energy systems in your body, or no, that your brain has 3 layers that needs energy, and that you have your reptile brain, your Labrador brain, and your human brain, and that your body prioritizes the reptile brain first because you need to survive, because that's addressing all those basic functions in your body. And the Labrador brain, that is about searching for food, for sex, for the basic needs to survive. And then comes the human brain. And the whole idea is that if you don't give your body enough energy, then it gets stuck at the Labrador brain, and you become very primitive in your reactions. And that's why people, when they are stuck in traffic, they get annoyed very fast and behave like idiots. But when you have enough energy for your human brain, then you become more relaxed. You can, how do you say it? Relativate.
I'm thinking with you.
Yeah, but it's you don't have that instinctive reaction. You can think about it before you react and say, okay, maybe the other person is in a hurry, and maybe he has an issue with his wife or at his work, and he's behaving like that, so that you more can relate to the other person and not giving that same primitive reaction as a response to others' behavior. And I think that's why when you go to a biohacking conference and all those people take care of themselves, they have that positive vibe, the positive energy. Always when I visit those conferences, I feel the energy that is in the space. There's no negativity, there's only positivity, and that's something that is very beneficial. And I can advise everybody to attend those events, because you have to experience it in order to understand what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is almost enhancing the transformation. And when I went to the summit last year in Amsterdam, it was my first encounter with other biohackers, and it felt like I got home in a new circus. And it was very, very inspiring, almost touching to see, oh wait, there are other people that are interested in those strange, weird habits, eating raw liver on a summit. And it was a crazy experience, and also just very connecting, very nice to connect with people that are on the same wavelength. So you are in the space as a biohacker, but also as an entrepreneur. I'm a big fan of your brand, because I told, I think it was Merel or your wife, like, the packaging, maybe you can show it on the video if you want to. The packaging itself only looks delicious. I mean, look at it. It's such a sophisticated packaging, but then the product itself always tastes very good. Could you explain why it is such a good product, or many products, of course?
Yeah, we are very fanatic about getting the best ingredients in it, and that's there are no degrees of freedom. So it's Noordkot is my passion. It's also something that I'm personally, connected with the brand, and I want to be proud of it. I want to be able to say, okay, these are the products that I created, and if the product is not good enough, then as a person, I feel that I'm not good enough as a person. That's so this should be for all products something that we are very proud of. And so sometimes it takes 1 year or 2 years before we create a product. because we are not happy with the sourcing, and we keep searching for the right source. For example, for the whey protein, I've been looking at for 1.5 years before we get the right source of the whey protein from grass-fed cows, organic. That's something, and then we test it. We are working together with some info who are very, very picky when choosing the right product. So they test it, and then they come back to us and say, okay, I like it, or I don't like it. Also, we test the formulas. We check with them. Are you sure about all the ingredients that are in it? And so that's I think one of the main criteria that we want to be sure that everything is biohacker proof. And and that works apparently.
Yeah, well, that is you understated maybe. Whenever I go to a biohacker's home or some event or whatever, there is Nordcoat provided. So I think you're doing a great job with the product. I was very surprised. Well, not surprised maybe, but maybe delighted to see that you were also selling cacao as well right now, the powder. Yeah. Of course, you had the bars already, but the powder as well with the mushrooms in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, perfect. I want to recommend everybody listening to.
Yeah, it's one of the other criteria is that it should be functional. So it should be the right sourcing, the right quality ingredients, but also functional, so that every single ingredient should do something for your body. And I'm very excited about the Power Cacao because it's tasty, but also a very useful tool to start your morning, with the right antioxidants in it, the flavonoids, the lion's mane, the chaga, and to kickstart your day.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely recommend it for everybody who's listening. To wrap it up, we're also organizing an event every other month, the Biohacker Meetup, the official Biohacker Meetup of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Next is 3rd of September with Demo Arena, where I just had in the podcast, by the way. And yeah, for everybody, why should people come to our meetup? Sell it to the people, Eduard.
It's very simple. It's about the inspiration that you get from the speaker, but maybe more important is that you can feel the vibe that we just talked about. And what I like very much, and I'm extremely happy with, is that the Biohacking Meetup is indeed, a meetup, and you can see the like-minded people, the positive vibes that are in there. They are all, happy, laughing, happy that they meet each other again. And just for that experience, I think it makes sense to come to visit and see for yourself. We only charge 15 euros. It's not enough to cover the expenses because we want to make it as accessible as possible for everybody to come. And and it's just about, just 3 hours of your weekend. And I'm sure, I guarantee that you come back with a positive vibe after it.
Well, I think that summarizes it perfectly. Our meetup is some sort of like a supplement you take every 2 months to feel happy, connect, and gain knowledge for only 15 euros. The price doesn't even matter, but to emphasize how accessible it is. Yeah, next with Demo Arena.
And you get your free upgraded Nordcoat coffee as well.
Exactly. Only that only is already a reason to come over. It's in Amsterdam in the Tolhuistuin, and we are very happy to welcome everybody over there. Follow us on Instagram. Where can people find you, Eduard?
At Eduard de Wilde on Instagram, and of course at livehealthy.com and nordcoat.com.
Sounds good. I had a very nice conversation. It was nice to have a one-on-one. Thank you so much for your time, for your knowledge, for the practical tips as well. I think it's very helpful for people to just start with easy pillars. And I think I think you covered the basics perfectly. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
See you.